Hi everyone, welcome to Life in Lockdown. This morning it's my pleasure to introduce you to Amanda Barratt. Amanda is the author of historical fiction with strong romantic threads. Her next book, called The White Rose Resists, releases on Tuesday. So we're just a few days out from a big book release for Amanda. It's coming from Kriegel. And Amanda, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Now, you are the first person that I have interviewed in a car. So would you like to tell everyone who's watching why you're doing this in a car?
So I am in a car because the Wi-Fi at my house, I have Wi-Fi and it's decent Wi-Fi, but I've noticed that since everyone's been staying at home and people have been on the internet a lot more, that it's started to have glitches and issues. And so I'm in my church parking lot using their Wi-Fi because they have really good Wi-Fi and no one's at the church and in the church right now. And so I'm taking advantage of that, and hopefully I get good audio quality and video quality as a result.
So there we go. One of the things we're grateful for in lockdown is great church Wi-Fi when our houses aren't up to the pressure. So Amanda, do you want to tell people a little bit about where you live and what the COVID-19 restrictions are like, and kind of, I guess, some of the differences between life right now and life before COVID-19?
So I live in Michigan and we have been on lockdown since March 23rd, and it was a pretty strict lockdown for quite a while, and recently we've started to have a few things open up in certain parts of the state. My part of the state is still pretty much restricted, but in like Traverse City and then the Upper Peninsula, like restaurants are starting to open up with like 50% capacity, and some retailers are allowed to open up if they follow, certain guidelines and things like that. So, but of course, churches are still closed, and I work part-time at the library in my town, and so that is still closed. And so, yeah, it's been different. It's totally, we're used to, going out and, being able to get to meet with people and going to church every week, and all of that has kind of ended.
Have you had many cases of COVID-19 in your area?
In our small town, I believe it's under 20 right now. So not in, but, we're about 2 hours from Detroit, and, they had just such a horrible time of it. Thankfully, things are starting to get a little better, but so there, and then in the Grand Rapids area, there was also a high volume of cases. So in my state, I think for a while, Michigan was number 3 as far as like the highest number of cases in the United States. But since I think we've dropped down quite a bit from that.
Yeah. And how many people have you been in self-isolation with? How many people in your family?
There are 4 in my family, including me.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about your books and your writing, because as we've mentioned before, kind of we came on, My Dearest Dietrich came out last year, and obviously you got quite a lot of attention for it. A gorgeous story about Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And now you've got The White Rose Resists, also set around World War II Germany, coming out in the middle of a global pandemic. So do you want to talk to people a little bit about both The White Rose Resists and what the book is about, and also what it's been like, or how different it's been to releasing My Dearest Dietrich?
So it has been different in a way, because like with My Dearest Dietrich, I was very fortunate to be able to go to New York City and do some media interviews, and there was it was busier in a way. So The White Rose Resists, the release has been quieter, but it's still been wonderful to the opportunities that I have been able to get, and it's just definitely just really blessed to be able to share this story. And so The White Rose Resists is about a group of German college students during World War II who distributed leaflets against the Nazi regime, and they were eventually imprisoned and executed. And my story focuses on Sophie Scholl. She was 21 years old and the group's only female who was part of the core resistance. And so my story kind of goes into her journey alongside the journey of some fictional characters.
Did you always want to write World War II historical novels?
I've always been interested in World War II, pretty much from when I was in elementary school, but I really didn't think about writing in that era. I have done a lot of novella collections that have been set anywhere from Regency England to Old West Texas, and really it was Bonhoeffer's story that encouraged me to write World War II, just because when I discovered that he was engaged at the time of his imprisonment, I wanted to know about this woman who was in his life and that yet people don't know about. And so that was kind of what the catalyst that made me venture into World War II. And since then, I've just come across all of these wonderful stories and, these stories of human courage in the face of this darkness. And so I've really enjoyed sharing those.
And how did you find out about the student resistance and Sophie Scholl as part of your research for the Dietrich book, or did you come across that differently?
So with the way, what, can you repeat that? I think your audio just went out a little bit.
I was just asking, how did you come across the story of Sophie Scholl and the student resistance?
So that story led me to, as I was researching and writing My Dearest Dietrich, I came across a book about youth in Nazi Germany that I was reading for research about Bonhoeffer. And in there, I came across the story of Sophie, and I was really moved by the idea of this young woman who eventually was executed because of her resistance. And so I kind of started to delve deeper into her life. And the more I did it, I felt like this is going to be my next book.
And do you see yourself kind of staying in the World War II space for future books?
Yes, I do. The more I research and explore other countries and eras, the more I find that there are these stories that I want to share. And so I'm definitely planning on writing more World War II fiction.
And what is your favorite part of the writing process?
The research and the first drafting are probably my favorite. I love researching and coming across little nuggets to include in the book. And often with the research that I'm doing about these real life people, it's more of a challenge to decide what to leave out than what to put in, because there's so much rich material with them. And so yeah, the process I think that is the hardest for me was the galley stage, because at that point I can't change as much as what I'd like to change. And so I'm a perfectionist, and at that point I have to say, book has to go out into the world and I have to be done playing with it.
Do you find it tricky letting the book go out into the world?
Yes, because I think that every writer, the book is almost their baby. And so they never know, how is my baby going to be received? And so there is that, wondering as you send it out, and that agonizing as you're reading the galleys and like, did I miss something? Should I have written this scene differently? And at that point you can't. So.
And when did you start writing? What brought you into writing?
So I started writing many years ago, and my first contracted project was a novella I wrote for Barbour's The Most Eligible Bachelor Romance collection. So in the following year, I had two novellas come out. One was in that collection, and the other one was in the Convenient Bride collection. So I kind of started writing these shorter, historical romances, and have kind of shifted to write more straight historical fiction with romantic elements.
Do you find the longer ones easier because you have more words, or do you find them harder because there's so many words?
I think that they're challenging in different ways. I like to think of my novellas as the way you think of a movie. A producer of a 90-minute movie is going to as I'm plotting, as I'm deciding, how many scenes to have and things like that.
Now, final two questions that I ask all of my guests. What do you miss the most right now, and what is keeping you sane right now?
So I really miss my church family. I go to a wonderful church, and as I'm sitting in their parking lot right now, I really miss, being able to gather with other believers and to worship Jesus. And I also miss going shopping. I've been getting tempted right now by loft ads all across my social media feeds, and I want to go into the store and be able to look at all these pretty things, and yet I can't. So that's been hard. And what is keeping me sane is probably I've been baking, I've been taking walks, and I've been watching a lot of BBC dramas.
Do you have any baking specialties?
There's this wonderful lemon loaf cake that I love making that tastes a lot like the Starbucks lemon loaf. And so that's something that I've made several times and just really love. I love lemons, and thankfully I've been able to still find them in the store. So,
Oh, nice. Now, as always, I'm going to give away a copy of The White Rose Resists. So those of you who are watching, it only comes out on Tuesday, so you'll be getting it hot off the press. Amanda, what question would you like people to answer to be in to win?
so how about what is your favorite novel set in World War II?
Ooh, great question. Okay, what is your favorite novel set in World War II? There we go. So leave a comment on the Facebook post to be in to win a copy of The White Rose Resists. And thank you so much, not just for joining me today, but for driving all the way to your church parking lot so you could get the Wi-Fi. I really appreciate it, and I hope that the book release next week goes so well for you. It sounds like an amazing story, and I can't wait to read it.
Thank you so much, Kira. This has been a joy.
Thank you. See ya.